Welcome to The Topic, where we highlight Houston Community College, our students, our programs, and our reach into the community. I'm Todd Duplantis. Thanks for all of you joining us on Facebook Live and YouTube. We appreciate you being here. We're live every Tuesday at 1 p.m. on the district's social media platforms. Of course, you can always catch the rebroadcast of our shows on HCC TV. Check your cable provider for that. You can follow us across social media as Houston Community College District. And if you're into podcasts, you can download all the audio versions of our shows at hccs.edu/podcasts. Houston Community College seeks to address a broad range of issues confronting our metro area. Human trafficking may not be as visible as other issues, but our counseling department is seeking to bring it into the light. We're joined by Stephanie Bright this afternoon. She is from Texas Forensic Nurse Examiners, who conduct a training with our faculty and staff on how to recognize and address the problems. We're here today to talk with Stephanie. Stephanie, thanks for being on the show. I want to ask you, first off, what is Texas Forensic Nurse Examiners?
Yeah, well, first, thank you so much for having me. We love being able to provide education to the community, especially about human trafficking. And with Texas Forensic Nurse Examiners, we are a community organization that serves victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, human trafficking, child abuse, and elder abuse. And one of our main components of our organization is the nursing side, where we provide medical forensic exams for those victims who have been in those situations.
So tell me, you met with our staff and faculty. Tell me what the training involved and how you came about partnering with HCC.
Yeah, so with the training, we're able to spread understanding and education to the community about what we do. And that's a big way that we are able to get more patients and survivors into our care to be able to provide the services that are needed for them. And so our partnership with HCC, it's a great way for us to be able to reach a community, a population in our community that may not be able to receive the resources that they have been needing. College students are very vulnerable for this type of assault, specifically human trafficking. And so we're very excited to be able to partner with HCC and be able to provide education to the staff of what to look out for, the signs, and how that they can help and partner with us to be able to get all the help that is needed for those survivors.
For people who are targeted to go into human trafficking, are the age range of our students the prime candidates for this to happen?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The younger generation is very vulnerable. Some of the different population groups that are vulnerable include runaways, those who have been in foster care system at some point, especially when they age out right at 18. CPS is no longer involved. They may not have any family, any other support. And so now they're very vulnerable. Also, our young generation, obviously, social media is very popular. And now human trafficking has been very prominent through social media, through the process of grooming and meeting people online. So yes, the young generation, college students are very vulnerable.
Let's talk about the social media aspect, because the next guest we're going to talk to, we've discussed this with her before, and she brought up the aspect of social media. And from what I understand, the victims can be targeted very young. What should parents be looking out for? Because it seems like, college age students are one thing, but from what I hear, they're not the only targets, because the targets could be a lot younger as well.
Absolutely. So many times, I think just in general, we have this bias where we think that human trafficking happens somewhere else in another country or just certain people, and we don't realize it could be happening in our own homes, that our children could be targeted. And it's not to scare, but it's to make aware. And so the younger generation, when they're chatting online, especially with people that they don't know, that is a very high risk for them to come into contact with the wrong person, the person that may be trying to find young, vulnerable children who may not really understand what they're really getting involved to. The aspect of, meeting people online, following each other online, but not really knowing who they are, maybe different pages that to the trained eye may seem a little sketchy or there may be suspicious. A younger child may not understand that. And so, we've had patients as young as 12 that have been involved with the wrong person, met somebody online, and it has led from there to the trafficking situations.
Why is Houston, we hear about Houston being such a unfortunate area where human trafficking takes place. What are the factors that play into our city to bring this thing to light? Why are we such a headline when it comes to human trafficking here in Houston?
Right. We definitely are one of the number one hubs for trafficking. One being we're such a big city and we're very diverse. And so that's a huge one. It's a bigger city. There's going to be a higher risk. Also, if you look, we're right at the border. And so trafficking from country to country can be more prominent just because of our location. And so now that people know that this is a spot to go, it just continues to grow and to flourish from there. We have a lot of work to do here in Houston. But now that we are becoming more aware, that's where change can come from.
Stephanie, for survivors of human trafficking, what's the first thing they can do to reach out for help or if they want to get out of this?
Yeah, so there's a couple different ways. So first, we are automatically wanting to help at any way that we can. So our hotline number is 281-306-6893. And that is a good place to start. We can navigate the situation from there. And other options include calling law enforcement. It's not a mandate. It's not a mandatory thing, but they are trained and they are willing and ready to help with that as well. There's also resources online. If someone knows that they're in a trafficking situation and they may not be quite ready to leave or they don't know the next steps, humantraffickinghotline.org is a great national website. And there's also the National Trafficking Hotline number. It's 1-888-373-7888. All great resources for someone who either is in a situation or knows someone that is.
You mentioned something about learning resources online. You're the Texas Forensic Nurse Examiners. You're reaching out to colleges right now to educate the faculty and staff. But do you also reach out to community organizations to get the word out? And how can the general public reach you? Do you have toolkits on your website with things that parents or just people who are interested in this could know more about the subject?
Yeah, so we definitely have reached out to different organizations. We've partnered with shelters to provide education to the community there. We go to college campuses, especially around the time of organization fairs. That's a great time for us to not only educate the staff, but to educate the students as well. Yeah. They're going to be the front line. They're going to see when maybe their friend is involved with the situation, and they're going to be the ones that can help them through those situations. So we love partnering with the community and providing those resources. Online, on our social media, actually, we post a couple times a week educating not just about human trafficking, but about all the different populations that we serve, but also including human trafficking. And so on our social media, on Facebook, our page is Texas Forensic Nurse Examiners. Also the Forensic Center, that's like our overarching name. Right. You can find us there, as well as on Instagram at the Forensic Center. Great place to get more information. We've done teachings, and you can find those there.
Stephanie, we appreciate you joining us this afternoon. This is an important issue that we all need to learn more about. You mentioned something earlier, and our next guest is a human trafficking survivor. We've also had her on the show. When we return, we're going to talk about, because Stephanie brought up the light of people maybe not wanting to get out of this right away. I want to learn more about that, what keeps people in trafficking. And our next guest is going to talk about that and more. The topic continues in 60 seconds. We'll be back right after this.
Sometimes what you need just shows up. Houston Community College has your back, whether you're knocking out some basics or upping your game for a better job. Enroll today for spring classes and frame your future with HCC.
For more than a year, we have kept you informed with more than 500 remote episodes. But now we're back, bigger and better, with more news and more guests. Join us live every weekday at 10 a.m. on Facebook and YouTube. and on HCC TV at noon and 5 p.m. You can watch from anywhere. We go where you go.
Welcome back to The Topic. We're live this Tuesday afternoon, as we are most Tuesdays at 1 p.m. on Houston Community College District's Facebook page and YouTube channel. Catch the rebroadcast of our shows on HCC TV. This afternoon, we're talking about human trafficking. You've heard about it a lot in the city of Houston, and Houston Community College has always taken a stance to educate people, the public, our community, our faculty, our staff, and most importantly, our students on what this all entails. We're joined now by one of our returning guests, Nissi Hamilton, survived human trafficking and to found Nissi's Network Incorporated. She joins us now for additional insight. Nissi, good to see you once again. Thanks as always for joining us.
Oh, absolutely, Todd. I absolutely love you, and your show is amazing.
Well, thank you for being here. You've got an important story, and earlier we were talking with Stephanie, a registered nurse who educates people on human trafficking. She mentioned something which kind of struck me. When survivors want to get help, if they feel comfortable getting out of this position of being in the midst of human trafficking, I guess the question the general public will want to know is, why wouldn't someone want to get out of this? Surely they want to better their life, but I imagine it's a lot more complicated answer.
3 words: untaxed progressive income. It is the easiest way to get an income without any strings attached other than the facilitation and the sale of your body.
Right.
And when you look at your body, and because your body is different from drugs. Drugs, you have to cut it up. You can only get so many bags out of a pound of weed. And we're talking for educational purposes only. This is not a joke. But to simplify it so you understand, your body doesn't deteriorate, as quickly as a pound of an illegal substance,
right,
or cocaine or meth or any other type of amphetamine, something that would, stricken your body or get you to a level of euphorism, through a drug. And then the body doesn't take as long to heal, right? And so there becomes a trade. And through that trade is exploitation. So whereas you can do, a $5 nickel bag of whatever, of a type of drug, and you can break it down, you have a body and it doesn't break down as fast. You can do it. It has sustainability. You can do it 10 times a day and sustain yourself and then have an income. And then they perceive that as a type of wealth because it's 5 or 10 minutes.
Right.
Opposed to, you get what I'm saying? Opposed to you actually having to find a buyer, and the reoccurrence and things like that. So
the money is addictive from what you're saying. I mean, the money, the lifestyle in a way is very addictive. When you speak with our audiences here at HCC, you talk about human trafficking being the second slavery. Tell us about that.
Absolutely. This is February. This is the month of love, but it's also Black History Month. Right. And human trafficking started with, it was our African-American history, 403 years of slavery. And you can see in the public sale of Negroes where women were sold on, open markets. And we weren't called slaves. We were actually called wenches. And a wench was a female sex slave. She wasn't a prostitute because she was purchased. Right. And so that is something that we talk about so that we don't have to limit everybody's view, but to also help them explain that prostitution is a type of trafficking, but it's not trafficking. When you're prostituting yourself, you're in control of the money, you're a renegade. That's the first type of personality we just talked about with that untaxed progressive income because it comes fast.
Yeah.
But when you're being sold, you were considered a wench back in those old days. And then up to today, now we're victims of human trafficking.
Talk about what in this human trafficking involves, because you describe it as a triangle. What is that exactly?
I do. I try to teach it to simplify it the best way possible. The buyer, the seller, the slave, for educational purposes. This is recruitment, vulnerabilities, exploitation. I mean, and the vulnerability can be a threat. So recruitment, threat, exploitation, same thing. It is a horrible love triangle. And I tell people all the time, it requires, 3 people. There's somebody who's exploiting a person for financial gain. Because at the end of the day, pimps want the same thing that you and I want. They want financial independence.
Right.
They want to be able to live well without having to have a taxed income. So they want a progressive untaxed income as well. The problem with this is not only are they selling people, but they want to participate in the economy and participate in the economy where it benefits them. So they're defrauding the economy. You're saying that, hey, if something happens with one of my workers, which this is illegal, I deserve to be compensated in some kind of way, or I deserve to benefit from SSI, or I deserve to have time off or anything like that. And that's not true. So you defraud the economy. And through this defraudulent system comes this $150 billion industry that is acting like an industry titan, and you can't even trade on the stock market. That is a huge problem, because the people who are independently going to be outsourced, which I love talking to HCC about this, is our international students. HCC has one of the largest populations of international students, and they get double taxed. You got to get taxed just to come here. Then you get taxed again for being a collegiate student. And
well,
so
I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, with the international students, because I was actually going to ask that in the last segment. Would our international students be a bigger target for this industry than others?
Absolutely. Todd, if you notice, because you've had me on the show a couple of times, I brought it to your attention. I said, look, we still don't have independent representation of each ethnic culture, such as our Hispanic culture. We don't have a Hispanic survivor who is out and just gung-ho and sending these messages to really break down the cultural currency of what's happening in the culture so that we can understand what happens after a Kim Seattle. What does it mean to be 15 years old so that we can catch up? Do you get what I'm saying? Because we have Sweet 16. That's our American way. We can talk about that all day long. We get it. We have some Asian we have some Asian ethnics that are just out there. I have some Asian survivor sisters that are out there doing their thing. PETA and my other survivor sister that's out there doing their thing. But we need more, so that people can really just bring it in. We don't have any biopic representation, which is Black and Indigenous people of color. How is this affecting Indian students?
Right.
How is this affecting other races? Because I can tell you now, human trafficking doesn't have a race. It's not a creed to one particular type of person. And it's not, a disrespect to one type of culture or anything like that. It's a disrespect to everybody. And one of the things I talk about, Todd, a lot, because I know we're going to talk about cultural currency, but you know what? I'll wait till you get me, because I'm just going. It's just,
we are running out of time, but real quickly, cultural currency, we've got about 30 seconds. Could you explain that real quickly for us?
Real quick, you guys, cultural currency. How did we get to this part right here? And we think about, 3 generations ago, it used to be okay if you was 15 years old with a 30-year-old man. And before generations today, we're saying no more. No more of you being 15 years old with a 30-year-old man, because that was the okay thing back in the day. And now we're the repercussions of it is human trafficking, because it hasn't been explained to 4 generations previous. That's still that should have been still the conversation today. Then we took sex ed out of school, and we're here in this place where we're dealing with social atrophy, where parents stopped talking about sex because it was no longer talked about in school. Right. And so sex evolved, not physically, but it evolved in a metaphysical world where now it's on social media and you can't control it because there was never a conversation.
There's always things that we need to be doing, Nissi. I mean, there really is, as a culture, as a society, and as human beings. You know, I mean, we all need to do better with educating everyone and things to watch out. Nissi, you do some great work. Congratulations again on your honorary doctorate. We appreciate you being here, and we look forward to having you on again.
Thank you so much, Todd.
All right. Thank you, Nissi. We're going to take a short break. When we return, we'll hear how one Fort Bend County house of worship is making the difference in the lives of human trafficking survivors. All that and more when the topic continues in 30 seconds.
Sometimes what you need just shows up. Houston Community College has your back, whether you're knocking out some basics or upping your game for a better job. Enroll today for spring classes and frame your future with HCC.
When I was your age, I was just like you, fascinated by stars. But now I get to search for life in the universe. And who knows, maybe life is looking for us too.
So we're like aliens to them?
Yeah. Does anyone want to be a scientist now?
I do.
Awesome. We need more girls in STEM.
Maybe we can find aliens.
Things could be stranger, but I don't know how. I'm going through changes, through all of the strangeness. I'm going through changes now.
Welcome back to The Topic. I'm Todd Duplantis. Thanks for joining us here live on Facebook and YouTube. We are talking about human trafficking this afternoon on HCC's TV. And of course, we are joined now with a person who reaches out to help human trafficking survivors, people who are trying to start their lives over again. We've got Pam Bluestein, who is the president of Women of Christ Lamplighters at the Christ Church of Sugar Land. Thanks for joining us, Pam. Thanks for being here this afternoon.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you so much for having me. This is a situation that is near and dear to my heart. Our women's group got involved in helping with human trafficking rescue organizations about 8 or 9 years ago after attending a conference downtown, and we stumbled into a van driven by Elijah Rising, who took us all over town, showing us different places where human trafficking was going on. And after you see that, you cannot unsee it. Right. And we had heard from survivors during the course of the day. And when we got back to our little bubble in Sugar Land, we realized our life would never be the same because now we know. And so the first thing that we do is we commit it to prayer. On our Facebook page, if we get an urgent prayer request from one of our partners, we will put that out there. And I ask people, please, right now, stop what you're doing and pray. I cannot tell you the power that that has. And it also has power in the moment for the survivor who knows that they are being prayed over. Another thing that we do to reach out in tangible ways is we join rescue partners to go out onto the street. We go out on Bissonnette all the time, meeting the women up close and personal, hugging them, talking to them, checking on their safety, handing out items that they might need. We have met some amazing young women, and all the time I want to ask, how did you get here? But we don't. We're not there to judge. We're there to help.
Well, Pam, let me ask you this, because we were talking with our previous two guests about the fact that people may want to get out, but they have to figure out the right time. And our last guest, Nissi Hamilton, was saying that really the money is the big thing. It's attractive, it's addictive in many ways, and that's what may keep someone in this life. What are the first things they need when they're coming to you, when someone is saying, I want to get out, I need help, where do I start? Where do they start?
So we actually had this happen to us recently during street ministry. And basically we sent her, I was with one of our organization partners, and we asked her to please call and to come in. We have an office right there off Bissonnette, my rescue organization called The Landing, and she did. And so a plan, you have to have a plan.
Right.
A lot of times these women will, call the hotline and whatever rescue it is, will make an arrangement to go and pick them up immediately. But if they don't have a plan, they generally backslide and go back. So,
well, let me ask you this. What is the danger level of someone leaving this industry? Because I would imagine there's pimps out there, there's other hangers-on are handlers who may be after them if they try to escape. Obviously, they get to you. Is it like going into a witness protection plan where they can get not to make light of the situation, right, but to, where they can get a safe space that they can get away from the elements that'll drag them back in?
Yes, sometimes it is like a witness protection program, depending on the situation. Every case is different. There have been times when rescue organizations have had to move girls out of town. But for the most part, we do try to put them in safe shelter space. One thing that Houston and Harris County and Fort Bend County really need is more beds for more women. We have a transition house that we work with out here in Fort Bend County, and we are always looking for safe places for women to go. The organizations that we work with are specific to human trafficking, and we help them constantly with when a woman finally graduates a program, getting her set up, and maybe her first apartment ever. Right. She learns resources in the program, how to handle her own money. A lot of these women who are trafficked in the true sense, they never see the money. And let me ask you, if you don't mind, let me ask you this. Do you find that many women coming out of this are also facing substance abuse or other addictions on top of this that realistically pull you back in? Because when you have a physical addiction, to a substance, that's going to open up a whole new can of worms that you have to deal with in getting out of this life. Absolutely. And I will tell you that is one of the first things when a woman goes to a rescue organization, they will assess her immediately. And if she needs medical treatment or help or addiction counseling, those are the first things on the list. Her physical safety is first. And then they immediately begin to triage her, if you will, to find out what she needs. A lot of pimps will, in the early stages of a woman who is being trafficked, will often force drugs onto a young girl in order to keep her coming back. And so it is a vicious cycle, but with time and nurturing and the appropriate programs, they can be helped and they can lead exceptionally productive lives. Well, there's a lot of examples of people who are leading productive lives. Our last guest was a shining example. Exactly. Of that, Pam, we've got about 30 seconds left, but I want to, if someone is in need of assistance or they know someone, one of our students may say, my friend needs to get out of this life and I want to help her. Where can they get a hold of you? Is there a phone number you can give us real quickly and a website address? Well, honestly, they really do need to contact a rescue organization like The Landing or Elijah Rising or Rescue Houston, Redeem Ministry. Call the national hotline number that Nissi gave earlier. Right. And go online. If you've got access to the internet, all you have to do is Google Rescue Hotline, and they will put you in touch with the appropriate rescue near you. We're going to put some numbers and links in our social media post after the show. Pam, it's been wonderful speaking with you. Thank you for all you do and continued success with this. Thank you all for joining us on the topic this afternoon. I'm Todd Duplantis. That's a wrap for today. We're going to see you next week.